Hey y'all, this is Erica with Students of Life Podcast. If you're finding value in the Students of Life Podcast, we'd love your support. Your support allows us to grow and continue bringing you meaningful content. You can show your support by checking out our exclusive merchandise at studentsoflifepodcast.com. Every purchase not only gives you something unique to wear, but also directly fuels the podcast growth. Prefer to donate? That's cool. Just hit the donate button on our homepage. Every bit of support helps us expand, reach more listeners, and dive even deeper into the topics that matter most to you.
Welcome to the Students of Life Podcast. I am Courtney, and with me is Erica, my wife.
Hi.
How you doing, wife?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing very, very good right now, at this moment.
That's good.
But you're looking to be very concerned, though.
Am I?
Yes, you are.
I mean, I don't know what very, very good is, but I'm happy for you.
No, but you look at me like you're concerned.
I'm always concerned about you.
Like I'm about to say something.
Because you always do.
But I am.
Of course you are.
Because like with the last episode, you remember how this ended. I told you you're going to graduate.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you're graduating right now.
Mm-hmm.
You graduated. You have almost become my equal. You have. You're getting real good at this, and I'm
Oh, the kudos, claps.
Yeah. If I had it set up on the board, I would have hit the clap button right then. But I did the manual one. So, do you know what you've graduated to?
Please enlighten me. I'm so eager to hear.
I'm very eager to tell you.
What is it?
You're a Miss Courtney now. You have graduated to Miss Courtney.
You have lost your marbles.
I don't think so, but I think that is good congratulations on where you've come.
Sounds a bit narcissistic, buddy, but hey.
No, it's out of love.
Is it?
I'm telling you that you've done great.
Oh, so I can't be great on my own. I can't be great standalone. I have to be great in your shadow and go by your name.
Yeah, pretty much.
In what world where you know me does that even work?
Oh, it works very well because someone has to help you graduate. You just can't do it on your own. So I'm the one who helps you get there.
Pretty sure that's how I get it done, but go ahead.
Yeah, that's how you get there. Someone has to, like when you go to school, someone has to allow you to graduate. You got to put in the work and then you graduate. Then you graduate.
No, when I was in school, there was no child left behind. So no. My ass walked because my ass walked. I had counterparts who were sitting in the audience.
Well, what I'm saying is this right here.
No one allowed me to graduate.
Allow me to retort. because I think you're missing the point, okay?
I think you don't have a point, but go ahead.
I do. You're in the school of Courtney. And so...
I thought I was a student of life.
You are, but that's the school of Courtney, though.
It's not.
It is.
So are you saying that our listeners are in the school of Courtney?
Yeah.
Oh, you just shot off real bad.
So I'm going to say thank you. You did a great job, Mom.
All the way around the world just to say thank you, but you're welcome.
Mm-hmm. So stay on track. Stay on track.
Of course.
Yeah. Come on, dap it up.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. So are you ready?
For you to shut the hell up, yo.
All right. Well, let's do this show because I'm ready.
Let's go.
All right. This show is Curses or Choices, the Legacy of Generational Burdens. All right. So, wife, please inform us about generational burden. What is it?
So a generational burden or a generational curse in the spiritual realm can be defined as it's a curse that has been cast upon one member of a family, proceeds to pass down the family line to their children and their children's children and so forth, affecting the lives of generations of people. Either families will experience ruin at the hands of a single curse, often losing their financial well-being, their health, their social standing, and much more. Often, the same form of misfortune will affect multiple members of the family, and sudden accidents and misfortunes are common. I will say this, though, before we go any further.
Okay, let's go for it.
The best way, or the best cinematic way in recent times to see this would be watching The Fall of the House of Usher.
Yeah,
That is a perfect example of that definition right there.
it is. But that was a good show.
That was a fantastic
It
show.
was a good show, but it was also rooted in. It's just my take on it because I read a lot of mythology, and it really did remind me of that. But within that show, it was crazy as hell because the sister and the brother,
Became the father.
who became the father, the sister avoided having children
Yes, she did.
because who they sold to, they were like, hey, if you have kids, they will suffer a fate. And all of those kids suffered a fate, although they didn't know about it.
Correct.
They didn't know about it. They didn't know about the deal that their father made, or even with their sister, or their auntie.
Correct. They had no idea.
They had no idea. But they had to pay the price all the way down to the most innocent one.
They did. They benefited for most of their lives.
Yes.
Right. But, as the story goes on, we slowly learn that as the father gets older and he reaches pretty much the height of his life and success, now it's time to pay the piper.
You do. And no one ever wants to pay.
Right. He didn't want to. His sister didn't want to.
Look, she was even trying to sell him out.
She absolutely tried to get the man to kill himself.
And technically, he died.
He did
Spoiler
die.
alert, y'all. Spoiler alert if you didn't see it.
He did die, but the Raven
Couldn't let him die.
or Grim Reaper in that show couldn't let him die.
That's not how you go out.
There was a price to pay.
You got to pay the price. But this is also part of like our history. Like a lot of the things that we consume. We're talking about even mythology, starting out biblical. That's what Cain and Abel was.
Yes.
Not Cain and Abel, but it's what happened to Cain afterwards. His descendants, his sin was so
great.
It was so great that it passed down to all his descendants.
Correct.
They knew nothing about what transpired.
Correct.
But this is what Noah's Ark was. God flooded the entire earth to start it all over again. And his descendants had to pay for it just so we can begin all over again. So they had to pay for something even before they were ever thought about.
In the words of our elders or things we've heard people say before is the father had to pay for the sins. The son had to pay for the sins of his father.
They did. But that goes into, I always have a story about Greek mythology in some way.
We've learned that.
Yes, we do. I might not be able to do that the next episode, so I got to get it out of my system right now.
Please enlighten us, Mr. Lewis.
But it's this right here. A lot of these stories we've gotten bits and pieces.
Yeah.
So we never understood the full context of it because we never very seldom get the beginning, but we normally get the end. But it's this right here, like with the movie Troy. That right there was the end kind of a curse. Towards the end of a curse.
How so?
It was the end of a curse because, in Troy, let's put it like this. We'll take it back to the beginning. At the beginning, it was this guy named Tantalus, and he ended up, cutting up his son into small pieces, fed it to the gods. Mm-hmm. And they were pissed off about that. Mm-hmm. But they resurrected him. But even after that, the whole family, up until that point, suffered. And so we get the point of the story of Troy, which was like Agamemnon and Menelaus, things like that. Of course, we know
Achilles, all of those people.
Correct, we know that. Mm-hmm. But I think Menelaus is the one who was killed. But Agamemnon, they defeated. They took over Troy.
They did.
They took over Troy. So what happened after that? After he got back home, his wife and the husband, her side guy, during that time, killed him. Mm-hmm. They killed him. And then after that, he ended up dying. And then his sons ended up going into civil war. This is how it ended up happening. But it happened over time. And no one knew about the curse that began this whole thing in the first place. No one knew. But they all suffered because of it. So, it's the stories that these things have been happening forever, for generations, for decades, centuries, millennia. Mm-hmm. We've been consuming these things.
We have.
So.
Bits and pieces, but we have.
Yeah, but we have. But you do have a point that we were talking about. It was regarding one of your friends.
Yes. So I'll just paraphrase the whole story because it's kind of long, real quick, right?
It's okay.
So she's my friend. I've known her since like 8th grade, I think. She's a very close friend. So she comes from a line of root workers. For those who don't know, those are people who practice typically hoodoo, not necessarily voodoo, but they're spiritual people. And her family traces their roots back to Louisiana. I'm not sure what city this happened in. So I don't want to say that. But what happened was one of her great aunts messed with a hoodoo practitioner, a guy. Ended up breaking his heart. You know, normally when you think of like curses and spells and things like that, you think of women. But no, her family was cursed by a man. I'm not sure if she cheated on him or left him, but something happened where they were no longer together. And essentially what happened was he cursed her great aunt. And in doing so, it was more like a reverse love spell, if you will. That's the best way I can get people to understand it without going too deep into it, right? So instead of the women in her family being able to find love that will last, love that is real, they often come across men that they're not actually compatible with. And they have, they make deep emotional connections with men who are just unavailable. And that has trickled all the way down. The only exception to that is a relative of hers who's actually married, but it's been a kind of tumultuous, tumultuous marriage. It hasn't been peaceful. It hasn't been like a great marriage, if you will. Also, with the women in her family, this probably goes into genealogy, but the women in her family, most of them suffer from some form of bipolarism or schizophrenia. A couple of them have both.
Okay.
Right? But there were no traces of that, any known traces of that before this lady pissed this man off, essentially.
Correct.
Yeah.
So with that, and that's what we consider the curse, right?
Correct.
What do you think about that one?
So I do believe that they're real. I've seen them. I have seen, people be put in jars and the outcomes of that and things like that. I have seen people's lives be ruined by crossing the wrong person. So I do feel like it's a real thing, but I also know that if someone can put a hex, a curse, root work on you, then you can undo it. But all it takes is a matter of understanding the problem in the situation and doing what you need to make amends for it.
Okay, but what does that look like today? Because, I look at things a little different.
Of course you do.
I do.
Right? But that's also because our practices are completely different, right? So for me, what I'm saying, no, Courtney, it's common sense to me. You're like, Erica, that shit don't make no sense.
No, but it does make sense.
Right.
And the reason it makes sense to me is because I understand that I'm not so, ego-driven and pride-driven, and what I believe is that I can explain everything that happens, and I can't. And say in a scenario like that, I can't explain why it worked out like that, but damn, it did.
And it's been generations, at least 4 that I can think of, right? And it wasn't until my friend that somebody actually sat down and started trying to understand it and what it was and why it happened and what can be done about it.
Okay, so what can be done in a scenario like that?
So oftentimes it comes from literally making amends, right? But I mean, this has been so far removed that I don't know that it can happen at this point, right? Now, I will say the men in her family are just fine. Married, wives, children, all that, living peachy lives. Good. It's her sisters, her cousins, her aunts. They have no luck.
But I get that, and so when I look at scenarios like that, I have to look at it and ground it in some form of, I'm not saying that ain't reality, but reality like far as tangible I can touch. Mm-hmm. Because if I look at it as a way of, it had to be like psychological or social patterns in some way. And the reason I have to look at it like that is because if I don't see it that way, I don't believe I can fix it. And so it's one of those scenarios where we have to be able to rectify this scenario, because if I leave it as, hey, it's just a curse, then I'm like, oh, it's screwed. Let's not have, we go do House of Usher.
So,
let's not have no kids, nothing. So we got to be able to solve that. And that's why I look at it that way.
So I hear what you're saying, right? But that also just goes back to maybe a lack of understanding, not just on your part, but anybody's part who doesn't practice, right? Everything is not tangible, especially when you're when you're playing with and dealing with spiritual things. It's never going to be tangible like that.
So you saying they fucked?
Unless someone figures out how to fix it, absolutely.
So you don't think?
Do I think she can fix it? And I've had this conversation with her. Yes, I have. But you got to do the work to fix it. You have to have real conversations with real people who know more about this than you do.
So you don't think this is a psychological thing as well, and trauma?
I will say this:
or things that's just been passed down because I believe it now.
I do think now, I'm glad you put that part up, right? I do think that, sometimes curses last a lot longer than they have to, just because it's like any other tradition or lore, it's passed down, right? But I have seen this with her with my own two eyes. And had I not seen it myself, I would be like, they kind of tripping. Of course it's not. It ain't lasted that long, right?
Correct.
But I've seen it firsthand. And I've been amazed myself, like, damn. Okay, that is what it is. Now it becomes how do we do the work to reverse it, to fix it? But at this point, she's just gotten to the point to where she's like, you know what? I'm cool. At this point, live my life alone. I don't need a partner. I don't need a husband.
But that goes into kind of like, say for instance, epigenetics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm not trying to stretch or reach with this one, but say for instance, matter of fact, before we even get into epigenetics, give us the definition of epigenetics.
Okay, so epigenetics is the study of how environmental factors and behaviors can alter gene expression without changing the DNA sequence. Epigenetics is concerned with how cells control gene activity and how these changes can impact health. Now, let me go out to say this. If that definition was a lot for people, it's the same as, say, for instance, how Black people often talk about having post-traumatic slave syndrome or disorder, right?
Yeah.
That those are things that people today, although we did not live that experience, we still have trauma from that because it's been passed down through genealogy.
That's correct.
Through years and years and generations. It's essentially the same thing. So it's not saying that your DNA on a molecular level has been changed, but your genes, they're altered in some way because of some kind of past trauma or something that's happened to you.
Right. It doesn't. So this is to understand this. It does not change DNA.
No.
This does not change DNA. This is only genes. So say, for instance, if you learn something, like if you're a horrible communicator and you begin to have kids, it's a big chance that your kid's going to be horrible communicators too. Not only just through genes, but on top of that, we're talking about behaviors too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go for it, babe.
I was going to say, I say all the time, right? When we're talking about, altering genes, I've told you and I've told plenty of other people, this goes back to the old poem, children live what they learn, right? So if your kid grows up in a house and inside of that house, they hear yelling, cussing, fighting, all that, that is now giving that child a trauma response to things. And that trauma is changing that child's genes. Also, on top of that, that child is learning those negative behaviors. So now you have, in my opinion, fucked your child twice.
Yes.
Because that's how a lot of us, we have anxiety. And a lot of that shit stems from our childhood. Depression
is passed on.
Right.
Or say, for instance, I'm familiar with it even in family. Women were affected by this one. Family women that I know. A lot of them had mental disorders, like bipolar.
Yeah.
And it was passed down, but that was genetic.
Mm-hmm.
And also it becomes, in this instance, this is epigenetics because it was passed down through genes.
Yes.
But when I say psychological and social patterns, okay, I might be reaching a little bit with that one, but I'm okay with that. But I'm all right with this. But you can get help for it, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that, hey, everybody, I'm not saying, hey, if you got bipolarism and you need to take medicine, take your medicine, okay? If that's what you have to do, take your medicine. I'm not saying it, but there is help for that today. So you don't continue to pass that down. So, we was even also having conversations before, and you told me, "Hey, Courtney, you're reaching. You're reaching a little bit too far with this one." And what this was right is this right here. We was having this conversation about how people act with one another. So, say for instance, when someone black comes across a white person, right? They come across a white person, might not have ever met a white person, but they automatically know how they need to respond to it. They act different around what they consider what is to be white.
Okay.
Or even we'll reverse it with white people. They have a preconceived notion about what black people are, and they think all black people are a certain way. So when they get around them, even if they never met a black person, they have a preconceived notion of what a black person is. But they passing it down to the kids, and the kids believe it too.
But that's a learned behavior, right? I don't think, I told you this then.
I'm not stretching.
Yes, you are, because that's a learned
reaching.
behavior, right? Because my thing is this, even though that black person may have never met a white person, they've seen movies.
Okay, so
they watch TV, they see the news. And the same for for a white person. If you watch the news, there's not very many good things about black people on the news ever.
That is correct.
You know what I mean? So that's a learned behavior.
Okay, so this is the question, Erica. Do you not think that is altering people's genes and passing it down?
The jury's out on that.
Oh, hold on, because you love Jeopardy, so I'm finna hit that. Do 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 do.
The jury's out on that, because I don't know.
So you don't think what we consume alters our genes at all? Like it has no effect on who we become? Because I do.
I think that it teaches us learned behaviors. I don't know that I would go so far as to say that it affects our genes, but
you wouldn't go that far to say that.
No, I wouldn't.
Okay, so can you describe like the difference between learned behaviors and epigenetics then? How do you see that?
I'm not a geneticist.
I know. I'm just saying.
Or a psychologist. So therefore, no, I cannot.
Okay. All right. Just asking. Because it's a very interesting topic to me. Because I don't think I'm reaching on this one.
Okay.
I think what we consume has altered who we are. So even when we don't come across people, we have a preconceived notion of what they are, and we pass it down to our kids.
So then what we'll do is we can put a poll on the Facebook page. Right, and after people listen to this, right, we'll put a poll up.
Okay.
And let folks listen to it. And then we can have a conversation on Facebook about it.
Yeah.
And see what people think. Because honestly, I don't know. I'm open, right? I'm always open to changing my mind. But I'm always open to change my mind. I'm not so closed-minded where I think I'm the only right answer. Yeah. Especially when I genuinely, I don't know. Like, I'm just now learning about epigenetics, so I don't know.
Right, but I don't think I'm reaching on this one. And all, jokes aside, I know I just made a crazy one that was off that no one could see. Okay, but no, I do believe that is a very true thing. So we'll go into the question of kind of, you mentioned post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Yes.
How do you think that's affecting? Say, for instance, like whether it's black people, or any other type of culture that's not necessarily considered, because we use that, as black people, post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Well, because in America, that's how it's defined. That's what it is.
That's how it is, So how do you think people are being affected by that?
I mean, I think, right, even still today, I feel like there is sometimes an inherent fear of people who don't look like you. I say it's an inherent fear, but also we're shown every day how people who don't necessarily look like us don't give a damn about us or our outcomes. So
that's epigenetics too, then.
Yes, absolutely.
As far as being able to pass down the fear.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So what else you got on that one?
On which one exactly? The post-traumatic slave, or I mean, I can keep going. You know?
Yeah. But I mean, because that's an epigenetic issue, though.
It is.
The fear response, or even how we'll go into like black mothers. We'll just use black mothers, and the saying how they're always overprotective of their sons.
There's a reason why.
But there's a reason why.
Yes,
even to this day.
That goes back 400 or 500 years.
Yeah, to this day.
Yes. because those mothers protected their sons.
And they still do it today.
Now, today I will say it looks different, and I don't think that what they perceive as protection is what young black men need. It's one thing, to have Life 360 on your kid's phone, even your adult child, right? On your phone, or parents calling every day. I just called to hear your voice. Are you okay? Right? But I do feel like that a lot of times mothers tend to
be overprotective. They're overprotective, too much.
Yeah.
And also, but the relationship between mothers and daughters are a little strained a little bit too.
But even back then they were.
They were. And that's been passed on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even to this day. But what bothers me today is that we try to explain this shit away like it don't matter. Like, oh, that happened so long ago, it don't matter. No, it passed on.
Well,
it just looks a little different today because we're in a different time.
Just because we are no longer picking cotton in fields, that does not mean that those feelings have just gone away, right? It's the same as how I've told you before. It's no secret I'm mixed, right? Biracial, white mother, black father. It's no different than how black people today are being called back to their roots. Like ancestrally, they just feel it. You got black folks creating homesteads and farms and using holistic medicine. These are the things that we have always done, right? For generations, we were removed because through, segregation and other things like that, we wanted to fit in and assimilate and be a part of and have the same chances as our counterparts. But today, right, well, we have the same chance. It's hard as hell to get there, but we do have the same chances they have. Yes. It takes a few more hoops to jump through, a few more levels to go up, but we can amass the same wealth that they have now, right? But that being the case, people are tired of living this rat race, right? Like, and I'll just use millennials. We are the generation who's like, fuck that. And we're studying the past, and in becoming more educated and in studying the past, you're learning like, this is my birthright. This is who we were. This is what we are. We can go back to what we used to do to take care of ourselves without having to be in the field and all that other shit.
But what we have to do is use the past as a
teacher, as a guide.
We got to use the knowledge and the power of the past, and we can't hold on to it.
Yes.
But also, we need to understand, even between you and I and those who are listening as well, when we're talking about what's being passed down in epigenetics or things like that, we are talking about things that happen that's happening before you were ever not just conceived, but before you ever thought about. So this is actually happening around 3 to 4 generations out.
Yes.
So even by the time the 4th generation gets it, if it don't change, they get it. So
there's a shift. And
it was, for years, like when I was growing up, and I'm sure you heard it too, when doctors would always say, hey, you have to make sure that, during your pregnancy that you're okay and that you're good. But no one ever says that you need to make sure that you're okay before you're ever pregnant. Because it's not just the pregnancy and what happens and the stress during that pregnancy. It's the stress that happened before then that determines the outcome of that child.
So think about it like this, right? As a woman, a baby girl who was born, the baby girl that is born, she is born with 2 generations of eggs inside of her, and those are all the eggs she will ever have.
Yep.
Right?
That's a fact.
So now you have your grandmother's eggs, your mother's eggs, and now yours.
Yep.
So you have a daughter. I have Jade, right? So Regina's eggs, Erica's eggs are now in Jade, right? And that is why I have tried to work so hard, to make her a complete woman, right? To let her know that it's okay to be yourself, to accept yourself. It's okay to feel these emotions and feelings, because if the eggs that I have pass down to a whole woman, right, who doesn't have trauma responses, who doesn't have to thrive in chaos and being broken and shit like I was, we are literally healing genes as we go.
That is true.
Right? So that means that our grandchildren have the potential to never feel any of this shit.
Right. But, going to that, you'll probably say, I'm stretching or I'm reaching again because I'm a reaching.
You a reach 'em up.
I'm a reaching ass guy. I reach. Yeah. But, so we're talking about making things better.
Yes.
Passing things on.
Yes.
But this goes into kind of the post-traumatic slave syndrome, but it's not that. But this is about the Jewish people because of what they experienced pretty much during the Holocaust, okay? This is what they experienced during the Holocaust. And I'm saying this because they were almost eradicated. We know that. A lot of them perished in the most violent way. But you know what they did? They turned that thing around. And like I say, I know I'm reaching, but people understand where I'm going with this.
I don't think you're reaching. Let me tell you why I don't think you're reaching.
I'm not there yet, yo.
Okay.
I'm not there yet. And it's this. They have taken control over many things in their life after that event. After that event, they're in media. I'm talking about like our music, the movies, banking.
The jewelry industry.
Jewelry, thank you.
Diamonds, gold.
They are in all of those areas and places. They said, you know what? I'm going to make sure that this never happens again. And so they doubled down on changing that. Their generations after that, see, I'm not going to say they see things in a positive way. They see the possibilities of what can happen and not being, affected by the trauma in a negative way.
Well, all they know is possibilities, right?
So now the trauma has been turned into something more positive because they determined the outcome. They weren't victims of the outcome. They took advantage of it.
Correct.
So it's different. So that's epigenetics on a totally different level, if you ask me.
Well, it's literally, like I tell you all the time, it's night and day, right? So where it's been all negative for Black people,
yes,
they have been able to take that shit, literally do a 180 with it and be like, we're never going back again.
Yeah.
And mean it. But also, unlike us, they have a foothold a little bit of everywhere, right?
They do.
I mean, but also, just being fair, like us, they don't have a home to go back to either, right? They've never had a home like that. So in that way, we're alike. The only difference there is it's the amount of melanin in one's skin. That's the only damn difference.
Right.
Right? The only difference is they haven't been taught their whole life that they're less than and beneath. This has been drilled into Black folks' head since the early 1600s.
No, but that's a poverty mindset though. That and not even just in the pockets, but also in your mind. Especially when we're talking about our culture, and when you think of other cultures as always better than you, I found it very problematic. It's not too much different. Like when you've had friends who've said, "Hey, why you talking so white?" If you hadn't been a victim of it, you probably heard somebody who said it.
Oh yeah, I've definitely been a victim of it.
Yeah. Hey, why you talking so white? Why you acting white? As if white is better.
Well, and for me, the question's always been, that's been dumb as hell because I was literally raised by white people, right? So for me, I don't even know why you would even ask that question, right? We have friends, very intelligent Black people, like with PhDs, doctorates, things like that. And for someone to sit, instead of someone telling them how intelligent they are, it's, why are you trying to be white? As though white is the supreme, the supreme standard.
Like it's the standard.
Like
that's our guide.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the guide.
Yeah. And things like that frustrate me because these same people who are asking us these questions are the same people who, and I'm not knocking anybody, right? You do what you do. But the same folks asking us these questions are the same people who are still in the same neighborhoods that we came from.
Yeah. But overall, I'll say we have a very shit subculture though. That's just me. I believe we have a shit subculture,
What do you mean?
Our subculture, like the things that we like. And I'm not saying that anything is wrong with hip hop or anything like that. It's the mindset that comes along with loving those things sometimes. Because we can't separate the entertainment value, portion of it from reality. We think that is our reality. And so we can never separate ourselves from it. And so do you see where I'm going with that one? I
do see where you're going with that. See, but then here is my issue with that, right?
Or like not reading.
Oh God, that's a different. I could go on a tangent about that probably for a whole episode.
Like we talk about people who don't read. It's crazy as hell.
But so here is my thing with that though, right? When it comes to music, it takes hold of people because literally when you listen to it, you can relate to it. That's why we have to be careful with what we consume. right? You have to be careful with what you let your kids consume. And I'm not knocking anybody, but there is no reason why you got a 7-year-old who can't read, who can't write well, who can't comprehend, and who can't do basic math, but can sing every damn word to a Sexy Red song. I have a problem with that. That's a poverty mind state, right? Now, that being said, I'm sure somebody would say, well, Erica, so if she could read and write and do this and do that, it would be okay. Yes, because her parents are teaching her there's a difference.
Yeah.
So yes, it would be different. It would be different. Now, I don't think any young child should be out here, Lord knows, singing nothing Sexy Red.
No, they shouldn't.
At all. But at the same time, it's a lot easier for your child to be able to differentiate between music and reality when they can do basic things like comprehend what the hell is going on.
Yeah. And so that's the whole point of what I'm trying to make, is that those right there are poverty mind states, and we hadn't been able to separate ourselves from fiction from reality.
Enough of us haven't.
We haven't been able to. So the subculture has taken a hold and has taken root in such a way that we look at that thing as it's what guides us to a degree.
It is.
And, it guides us, and we crap on other people who are not like us, who don't give in to the subculture, who's not part of the subculture. If you're outside of the subculture, you know what?
You don't belong.
You don't belong here. So, reading will be looked down upon.
It is. And it's crazy as it sounds, I'm going to go ahead and say it because, it irritated my soul very, very badly. I feel like people like Kanye West who tell people, I don't read, and people look up to you and admire you and want to be like you. That's problematic to me. But
that's also a big problem today, too, is how we get our information.
Yes.
Most of us don't read, like that. We get most of our information from social media. And that right there shapes our beliefs and and how we pass information along. So when we're talking about this generational thing, even how we pass information along becomes generational.
Absolutely.
So by the time the next generation comes up and they think that, hey, this is how I'm supposed to gather my information to make a decent decision, is wrong. You can't make a decent decision by gathering only information on things from social media. You can't do that.
Well,
because we don't know how factual most of that stuff is, but we're passing on lies.
So, and that, I'm glad you brought that point up because I was going to ask you. So, do you think social media would be different if there were like built-in fact checkers, like Snopes, for instance? I love that website. I love that news source because it's going to tell you if it's real, if it's false. They're going to do the research and put it out there for you. But if there was something like Snopes built into, like, say, a Twitter or a Facebook, do you think that would make a difference in the way people interact with it?
Yeah, I do believe that for sure. But I also believe this too, is that it'll never happen.
Of course it won't.
Because the misinformation is a hell of a weapon. It's a hell of a weapon, and it's being used to pass along misinformation. So based off this conversation, if I can pass you along bad information, via social media, everybody believe the same thing because this is what this is.
Groupthink.
Correct.
Yeah.
This is what this is. So if I can give everybody the same information, it'd be easy for you to pass it along.
So here's my thing with that. I think you and I talked about this already. There were more than 60% of people who voted who got all of their political information from social media.
Correct.
That's troubling.
It is.
That's quite bothersome to me. So let me ask you this then. Do you think that bad habits and negative behaviors have a detrimental effect on generations of people?
Yeah, I do. I do think bad habits. I mean, it's easy to pass them down because it was an old study that I read, but it's proven that kids are more likely to smoke
if their parents smoke.
If they witness their parents smoke.
Yeah, we talked about that. I remember that.
So whatever happens, whatever is being witnessed, it's easy to pass on, and that's just through just being a part of it. So yeah, I do believe that hands down, but I also believe that you can pass down good things too.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like this right here. Now, I was in one of the jobs I was working at. It's a print company, but it was ran by a family. That print company was ran by a family. It was a commercial printing business, and it was a grandson that was there, and he worked literally every job. And it was before I got there, but he had worked every job, from like, what was it? What was it I did? I did, Erica, pre-press. There you go.
I was like,
Yeah, it was pre-press.
you did a lot there. So
Yeah, I did pre-press and graphic design there. That's what I did. But he had worked that area. He worked sales. He worked the press day and night at one point. But the reason he did that is because he always wanted to run the business. And his grandfather said, you can never do it unless you know everything here. And eventually, he passed away. He was a good guy. I liked him. But to this day, his grandson is running that business. So he passed down something great to his grandson. He was saying that, hey, if you want it, you got to work your ass off to get it. You got to earn your way. But everybody in that family did, because his brother owned a print shop. They merged. It was two brothers, all the daughters, some of the sons, and a grandson, all in one business. So they passed down good shit. Good things can be passed down, not just bad habits, not just witnessing bad, but also witnessing and experiencing what it means to be good too.
absolutely.
And when I looked at that, when I saw that family, that definitely changed my outlook on how families could and or should operate.
They give you hope.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I think about them all the time because I still love the business. And when I get a chance, sometimes I go up there just to see how everybody's doing because they changed my life. They told me what hard work was, even on my end. We talking about 14, 16-hour days sometimes.
Or longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happened. So it's one of those things where, you know what? Hey, we can witness bad things, or things that does not determine a good outcome for our life. But there's also good things that can be passed down too, and we need to pay attention to it, and we need to put in the work so we can actually pass those things on. Because if we don't pass those things along, then we're going to continue to repeat what has already happened, and that's what this whole conversation is about anyway. This conversation is about why we are the way we are because of what has happened. The reason why we are what we are is because of the things that happen outside of our control. Not too much different from the conversation we had before, which was about fate and predestination. And this has predestination written all over it.
Well, so, why I agree with you, right? And I love a good hope story. I love a good positive story. But, I think it's also very important to highlight the negative parenting behaviors that people have that have been passed down that we may not know, right? That we may not see.
Bad communication.
That's the number one.
Yeah.
Or just how about just the inability to communicate, period, right? We have that one. And then, you go a step further to where, like you mentioned earlier, mothers protecting their sons, but fighting their daughters.
Yes.
Let's talk about that one. We've seen it firsthand. We've seen it through friends. I'm sure when you were in school, you saw it with like girls and their mothers. They didn't get along, couldn't stand each other. Mothers were often quick to put their daughters out the house. 14, 15, 16. I know I had multiple friends who slept at our house when I was in high school because, me and mom didn't play that shit. A kid's not safe. No, you're going to stay here until you are safe. That's just, that's how my folks were. Like on the flip side of that, you have these mothers who go out of their way to protect one child while simultaneously shitting on another one. And I don't think people realize that is how you break families. That is how you create siblings who don't like each other.
Favoritism.
And yeah. And they don't know why they don't like each other. Or, you always wonder why the eldest daughter just stopped fucking with the family. What kind of hell did you put her through? Like what did you do that drove her away? Because no one just outright chooses to not deal with their family. There's always something there. Something underlying.
There is always something underlying, but I don't believe we know what it means to have a good relationship. But this goes into what you're saying. I don't believe we know what a good relationship overall looks like. What are the components of a good relationship?
Right, I was getting to that, and we don't. And we don't because, unfortunately, a lot of us have never seen it. And that goes back to the beginning of our conversation.
Yes.
The behavioral part of epigenetics and, the trauma that sticks with us. Like for most people, it's, oh, well, my mama was the same way. Or my dad was the same way. That doesn't make it okay. right? At some point, these things can be changed. And that's the whole purpose of this conversation today. Is to know that maybe your mama put you out when you were 17 and you weren't ready to be put out. You don't have to treat your daughter like shit. You don't have to fight your daughter. You don't have to talk to her like shit and call her bitches and hoes and say she ain't gonna be shit and things like that just because it happened to you. At some point, you have to break that. I've said it before. You got to break that curse, bro.
You do. But you know what? I've literally seen, like generations of fatherlessness, like it was passed down. Mm-hmm. Like one, the first one in the generation didn't have one, and it passed on even down to this one right here.
Because he didn't know how. He didn't have a daddy.
How. They don't know how. I've seen generations of women who cannot hold on to a man.
Uh-huh.
I'm not saying like that in like a negative way, but they always have like some negative relationship going on there where it can't be maintained or held on to.
Right. But that goes into why I've said a million times, and so have you. 2-parent households are important.
It is. But this goes into, again, I mentioned earlier, psychological and social patterns. Mm-hmm. So when we go back to the beginning, when we talk about like family curses, like legit curses, it's hard for me to just look at it as a legit curse. Do I understand it? Yes. But I can't hold it there because I have to say, you know what? This has to be corrected in some way. It's something that we can be able to do, like patterns or things we can, like books we can pick up, help that we can go and get to begin to shift this balance just a tad bit. Because otherwise, I don't see how it can be changed if we don't actually put forth the effort. Otherwise, we're going to only repeat what happened. We're only going to repeat the fact that I didn't have a father, so I don't know how to be a father, so I'm not going to do it either. I'm not saying that that's exactly how it happens, but it happens.
Well, I mean, it happens sometimes, but then again, on the flip side of that, right? You have men who, we know a couple of them, right, who didn't have a daddy and who turned out to be really great damn daddies because they didn't have one and they didn't want their children to feel the way they felt. So they go above and beyond. They don't miss nothing. They're there for everything.
Yeah.
So, I think it's one of those twofold things, right? It depends on how it affects you and how it makes you want to change. Example, I know I over Mother Jade. I know I do. I didn't have that, right? And that is a hole that my child will never feel in that regard. She will know her mama's always going to be there, will always show up from the time she wakes up to the time she goes back to bed. Unless I'm traveling for work, her mama's going to be in her face.
So I'll ask, if you don't want to respond, don't, we just push it on. Are there any things like generational that affected you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there was. So I don't know about my big mama, which was my great grandmother's mother. So my great grandmother, I don't know about her. I mean, I was alive the same time she was, but I don't know about like her parenting style or whatever. But I do know that my nana didn't have a good relationship with my grandmother. Mm-hmm. She treated her like shit. And then you had my grandmother who had my mother and my 2 aunts, right? And my grandmother was a really damn good mama, right? But along the way, somehow my mother decided that she wasn't the mama that she wanted, right? So my mother treated my grandmother like shit, and then in turn said that my grandmother never loved her and that she chose her 2 sisters over her while ignoring the behaviors that pushed my grandmother to be like, girl, what the fuck wrong with you, right? And so in turn, my mother, throughout her trauma, her self-inflicted trauma and bullshit, she was a shitty mama to me, right? So you get to me, and then I have Jade. I was terrified to have that kid.
How did I do?
I cried. Probably my whole first trimester, I think I cried. Like, if it were not for you, and honestly probably Ashley, because the first trimester I was not okay. I didn't know what to do. I was scared. I was like, I don't want to be a parent because I know I'm fucked up. I know I am. And I'm going to fuck this kid up. This kid is innocent. Don't deserve this. Right? So I had a choice to make. From the time she was born, I told you, like, I don't ever want her to feel anything I felt anyway. So I go above and beyond to make sure she doesn't. And that's not always a positive thing.
Yeah.
But you live and you learn, right? And in doing so, you learn how to be a better person. And if you're an intelligent person, you do the work, right? You go to therapy, or you do shadow work on your own. You guide yourself through your transition to being fixed. You find what grounds you. So I don't know what I would have been had I never had that kid, but I'm thankful that she's here because she did make me a better person.
Right.
She taught me that I had to own my bullshit, and I couldn't hold on to it. Now, the downside to that is learning how to own my bullshit and going through it, I unlocked so much that I didn't even know. I had no idea that every day was a day that I thrived in chaos, and that's not a good thing, right? That's not a positive at all. There's one thing to be able to function in chaos, like chaotic work environment. Maybe you're moving, and your house is a mess, it's a wreck. That kind of chaos is okay. It's not okay to live every day of your life in turmoil in some way and not know it. Because when you do that, you bleed on other people that don't deserve it, whether it be friends, family, significant others, your children. There are a lot of women out here, men too, but there are a lot of women out here who are thriving in chaos and have no idea how to fix it. But you need to, because mothers are important. Like a father is there, to be the strong type, to teach their children how to be strong and how to move forward and how to get things done and to protect their children. But a mother, your job is to nurture these babies. That's where they learn it. That's where it comes from. They learn how to love and how to be kind and how to be gracious from their mother. But that mother needs an environment to be able to do that. That environment starts with you. A man doesn't give you that. That's work you do on your own. And unfortunately, the women in my family before me have never done that. That's why a lot of them now don't talk to me. I'll tell them in a minute, no, I'm not a strong, independent woman. For what? Why? Like, honestly, why? Look at what happened to y'all. All y'all are broken and fucked up. Why do I want to be that? I'm not teaching my daughter to be that. You got a daddy? Call your daddy. You don't feel good? You want to whine and cry? Call your daddy. Something in your room you don't want to pick up? It's a bug? You can't hang that thing back up? Call your daddy. That's what it's for. That's what dads are for. That's what parents are for.
You said that's what it is for.
Yeah,
You
my bad.
You literally just said that.
My bad.
You was good. You was doing good. And
I'm
then
still
you
doing
said,
good, and you just stopped me, and that was so rude.
And you just said that's what it is for.
That's what it's for.
Well, damn, Erica.
That's my man appreciation tangent. You know what I mean? It's like, but seriously though, like in all honesty, if I could go back and redo anything, I don't know that I would, because the shit that I went through made me who I am today, and it's allowed me to be able to teach Jade to be the kind of woman that she needs to be, and that is how you break bad habits and behaviors.
It is, but excuse me, but also some things that not talked about either, as far as breaking a bad habit or behavior, and we're talking about the end, like the very end. Death.
No more.
Right. Bad habits and passing down, not knowing how to properly deal with shit like that. Mm-hmm. That is a problem. You know, people dying and having to do T-shirts and fish plates. Oh, yeah. Okay?
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about. Like, when I was running insurance, I came across a guy, and I was trying to sell the guy insurance. I was going through my pitch. I did everything that I was supposed to do. And the guy said, well, why do I need insurance? I'll be dead. Oh. It won't bother me. It won't be my problem. That's what he said. He said, I'll be dead. It won't bother me. It won't be my problem. I've always wondered, like, how much did that guy really give a damn about those people in his life? Because
he did.
That was going to be their problem, not his. So everybody, I want you to understand, you need to get those things in order. Make sure that it's okay. Make sure that people can grieve you properly.
And not hate your ass along the way.
And not hate your ass after they're gone.
Yeah.
Make sure that your shit is together, okay? Mm-hmm. You have to do that. Because when people are gone, you want them to be able to miss you and not miss the shit that you left behind for them to deal with. Make sure that it's all together, because that is a habit that needs to be broken, and it's definitely need to be broken inside of certain cultures, families.
I'm glad you brought that point up about life insurance, though, because life insurance is one of the easiest ways today, right? If you use it right, it's called life insurance because it's for the living, right? It pays out when you're dead, but if you do it right, it pays you dividends while you're alive. If you do it right, maybe you don't benefit financially from that, but if you purchase the right amount at the right age, your children will never be broke again.
It's one of the top ways that wealth is passed down.
Yes.
You know, I think lawsuits is number one as far as making money.
It is in America. You can sue somebody for anything. Jeez.
Yeah. But life insurance is the number one way to create wealth.
Generational wealth.
So please get those things in order, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Be able to pass down wealth in the easiest way it is to pass down wealth. We're talking about you can get policies for damn $25 a month. Mm-hmm. Some of us buy more marijuana than that in a month. Okay?
In a day. A month.
You know what I'm saying? We buy more liquor than that. We buy more, definitely cigarettes. Oh, man.
Oh, my God. They're so expensive.
Gosh.
I don't know why people smoke.
Ooh-wee.
I don't know why people smoke.
So what you can get, in life insurance in like 1 month. I mean, in 1 month, you end up paying double that or more than double that in cigarettes. So with that being said, unresolved issues don't end with just us. It can actually continue on even after we're gone. So don't treat your family like that, ladies and gentlemen. Your problem becomes your family's problems if you don't resolve them today in the most proper manner possible that alleviates the burden of your loss, when you're not here anymore. So don't be like that gentleman that said, hey, what do I need life insurance for? I'll be dead. It won't be my problem. Don't be like him, okay? And also, I don't think that I sold insurance to him either. So,
but you probably didn't. I'm sure he didn't want it.
No, he definitely. I think that was proven that he didn't want the insurance.
Yeah, he didn't really care about himself or his family.
Yeah,
he didn't really give a damn.
I should go do a follow up. I remember.
Well, he probably did, and he had to sell fish plates and T-shirts.
Yeah, that's what I want to see.
You trifling.
So I can prove it. Like, yeah, I knew it.
That's not very studious of life of you.
It's not, but I wouldn't do that though.
So I do have a question though.
Okay,
we've been talking about all the different parts of this as like individuals or as like single family units, right?
Okay.
So what about the part of I guess genealogy, epigenetics, whatever you want to say, behaviors, right? Groupthink, because groupthink causes a lot of problems, right? Like one of the greatest examples I can think of, the recent example is the storming of the Capitol, January the 6th, right?
Yeah.
I guarantee you, most of those people who were there would not have done that alone or with just 2 or 3 people. It was the entire group of hundreds of people that got together like, yeah, we're going to do this. So it in my opinion, I think most of the time groupthink tends to be a negative thing. I'm pretty sure it could have positive, connotations to it if we reframe what groupthink is. But overall, how do you think that groupthink plays into the behavioral part of epigenetics?
I could say that at one point, just processing this on the spot right now is there might be some epigenetic characteristics to groupthink. Not, I probably didn't think that at one point, but it got some characteristics only because as humans, we need to be with other people. Mm-hmm. We need to be with other people. So I believe that it's just something that's inherently passed down, not just from a cultural thing, but people in general, because we need to be with other people and we love to be with other people. But it's also one of our weaknesses because it's used against us.
Okay, so do you think, we've been speaking about the past a lot during this episode, right? Do you think that is a form of like, I want to phrase this question right so that you're not like, what the hell are you trying to say, Erica? So do you think that possibly like the village mindset, right? That we have. Do you think that the village mindset of like our ancestors or people from back in the day, right? Because growing up, you used to ride your bike through the neighborhood, and everyone would know you because they knew your parents, right? So that kind of village we once had. Do you think that that village has somewhat died, and because of that, now we have group thinking, we just latch on to people or things that we feel like we can relate to in some way, even if it's not in the positive?
Yeah, to a degree, I would say yeah with that one, only because when we had that village mindset or mentality, it's because we all cared about one another. That's how we grew up. But I don't know at what point we grew apart, because even when I grew up, that's how it was.
Yeah.
When you grew up, that's how it was.
Yeah.
But today it's not like that. Say, for instance, like even within families, people don't
Come together anymore.
People don't come together like that no more in families. Mm-mm. But I don't know exactly why it happened, but I know that it did. But I do believe that is an epigenetic situation, because now once kids, or we start growing up without our families, you know what ends up happening? We pass that on, and we only just deal with a certain group of people within our family.
Yeah.
And so we don't have the village mindset. Like when it was okay for the neighbor to put his or her foot up your ass and say, hey, I'm gonna tell your mama on you.
Uh-huh.
It was okay. But now it's not like that. Maybe it's a little bit of fear too. And people just mind their own damn business.
I can see that.
Maybe people just starting to mind their own damn business now. But this whole groupthink thing is not necessarily just groupthink, but what has happened and transpired. It's the same model that was used a long time ago. And it was with charlatans. Charlatans did this. They end up, and this goes to what you were asking about individuals in groupthink. But it's this right here. Charlatans realized talking to individuals didn't work a long time ago. They realized it because they were the snake oil salesman. Mm-hmm. That's what they did, and they realized that going door to door didn't work.
Yeah, you need a group to feed off of one another.
They realized that the group is what fed off each other, and they were able to make the sales. It didn't work, but it fed off one another. But it's also the model that modern, how church is today. Mm-hmm. It's the same model. So say for instance, on an individual basis, I don't believe that church would work like that.
Oh, I don't either. You need those pews filled, or at least half filled, so that people can feed off of you, and the yes pastor and the amens that drives your sermon.
It does.
And the amount of money that goes into that pot you pass around.
Yeah, worthy is church, but I think they began to transcend that model too. When TV came along, because then they started putting it on television.
Yeah.
But I think we hit another point when it comes to groupthink, when it came along the lines of like when the pandemic hit, people couldn't go to church.
Nope. So now it's on social media.
And so now it's social media.
Yeah.
They found a new way for people to congregate.
Yeah.
So the whole point of this right here is that I do, to a degree, believe that there's some form of epigenetics to groupthink, because we have to be around people. I do believe that.
Well, as humans, we're not meant to be alone.
No, we're not. So when it comes down to that, since we have this inkling to always have to be in groups or in tribes in some nature, so that's a yes to that question. Even though at one point I didn't believe that epigenetics could have possibly play a part in groupthink, but I can see that it does. And if it doesn't, somebody can come and refute that one, and we can have a conversation about it. I don't mind being proved wrong on that. So,
that this is one time where I actually agree with you.
Oh wow!
I agree. I have no rebuttal for that. I agree with that.
Well, you've married me, so you agree with everything I say.
I'm gonna keep my response PG for the sake of not getting canceled. We're just getting started.
Hey, don't mess up your brand, okay? Don't mess up the brand that you've developed and built for yourself. Yeah. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we need to also understand that our identities are shaped by the past, because this is what this episode is about. This is about our identities being shaped from things that were out of our control. But this also goes into many other episodes that we have. Our innocence is lost because of things that's out of our control sometimes.
Yeah.
This goes into the other episode, fate. Or say, for instance, what about your purpose? Do you lose it? Do you gain it? Because
How do you find it?
How do you find it? If what we are is identified by past events, how do you find it?
If that's the case, much as I hate to say it, unless we choose to pivot or move in a different direction, unfortunately, people, you're sealing your fate.
Yeah. So who we are is because of our lineage.
Mm-hmm.
But we talked about epigenetics, and I think this was very important about this. And even talking about, curses, the legit curses, but also, how people break those things sometimes, even in our modern day, from a faith-based perspective. That's what prayer is for.
Absolutely.
That's what meditation is for.
Yes.
So, if we're talking about legit and legitimate curses, our faith and the things that we believe in can help assist in breaking those things. Although what our past is, it doesn't have to always be our future.
No, it doesn't.
Our job is to actually make sure that it doesn't repeat itself. What we have to do is use the knowledge of the past
to reshape our future. Yeah, I agree with that.
That's what we have to do. So it becomes, the saying, they always say, or it's always been said, hey, you can't live in the past. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
Because it already happened.
Mm-hmm. You can't change it.
You can't change it. You can't live in the future because it hadn't happened yet. Then they say, hey, sometimes you just gotta live for the day. But if you live for the day, you know what you can't do? You can't create a future. So this is my theory. We gotta live them all at the same time. We gotta live the past, the present, and the future. We gotta make it all work. And we can do that.
How do you do that?
I can't say that I have a formula for that one. I just know what it means for me. And sometimes we have to understand what that means for us on an individual level.
So for you, what's it look like?
For me, what it looks like is, like, say, for instance, when it comes to the past, because I was truly affected by it in ways, because I couldn't let go. I was depressed. So living in the past, that's depression as hell. Depressive as hell. And that is what depression is, to a degree. Or, say, for instance, you're always worried about what's going to happen. You know what? That's a lot of damn anxiety, too. And then, and so what I do now is that I combine them all together. And how I do that is that I let go of what was. I don't necessarily worry about what will be. I just focus on my present, to a degree, so we can get to the future. I make my decisions, in the moment, and I make them count. And it's not because of hurt that I'm holding on to. It's not about the worry about, the things that could happen in the future that hadn't happened. I live in the present, and I use all those things for this moment, right here, right now, today, to make me a better man. That's what I do all the time. I'm not always perfect at doing it, but that is how I do it, by separating myself from what happened, and sometimes the things that I'm worried about in the future. Let them go. Wrap it all together, and use that knowledge to move you forward for today. That's what I do.
Has it had a real impact on how you feel and how you move?
Yeah, it has.
Positive?
I would say that this one has been positive because, like I said before, I lived in the past a lot before.
Yeah.
And it had detrimental effects.
Yeah, it did.
It had detrimental effects, and it has affected the way I move forward, but we've done better.
Yeah.
We've done better, after that. So people, they can make the change. They can make up their mind to say, you know what? This is not how I'm going to move forward. But you have to do that on your own, though. Sometimes no one has the answer for you in your life.
Well, that's where self-reflection comes in. You and I talk about that a lot.
Yeah, it's different for everybody. So there's not a formula like for everybody. Hey, I just want the formula so I can do it. That's what we want. We want some shit given to us. Mm-hmm. We don't want the work. How I do it might be a little bit different from how you do it. A little bit different than how a friend will do it. A sister, a brother. There's no formula to this shit sometimes. Just knowing that it needs to be done.
No right or wrong?
Yeah, it's no right or wrong. You just got to make it better. That's what we have to do. And that is possible. But we can't live in the past and we can't live in the future.
So
we got to make it what it needs to be right now for today.
So here's my question for you. If you could leave our listeners with one question to ponder until we come back for our next episode, based off of the information that we've given today, what do you think would best benefit them?
You know what? That's a good damn question.
You're welcome. That's why my name is Miss Erica. I'm Miss Courtney.
No, it's definitely Courtney because that was definitely a Courtney question. But it'll be this right here. You know, it's very simplistic because it's based off the episode. What do you think, or how do you think your family lineage has brought you to this day? Who, based on who you think you are today, how has your family lineage gotten you there? Are you what your family lineage was, or are you what you created yourself to be? That's what I kind of leave with you, and I would like to know that one.
One last thing. If someone wants to be more, to experience more, do you have any advice for them on how to maybe step out a little bit further than their current environment?
Oh, yeah, definitely. The first thing would be is this right here, self-awareness.
Yeah, that's a big. And so what does that look like?
Self-awareness, you know, knowing what the hell you're good at sometimes. Mm-hmm. Just for one, knowing what you're good at, knowing what you're not good at, and being okay with those things. And if you're not good at it, you can improve on it, but you don't have to focus on it either. But you definitely double down on what the hell you're good at. Find out on what you're good at and who you are. Because to me, that's part of that process right there. That's finding out who the hell you are. Know your weaknesses, know your strengths. You can become good at that. You know, make those weaknesses a little bit better, but also double down on those strengths. Then two, accountability.
Oh, that's my favorite. I love accountability.
Yeah, that doesn't require much explanation because we know to be accountable for one's actions, especially if we're in the wrong.
Yeah.
If we're in the wrong and we know we've done some things that could have damaged or hurt someone, hold yourself accountable for it so you can move forward. You cannot move forward properly if you don't hold yourself accountable. It don't work.
I love that you brought that point up, but I also feel like in the midst of, when you said hurting someone, right? In the midst of that, if you hurt someone, you have to own that, be accountable for it, and you have to hold space to fix whatever it was that you broke.
Yes.
You have to do that because now that's your obligation because you did that.
But one of our problems are that we struggle with taking fault in our actions because we don't like facing them. I've come across I've grown up where my elders, the older people in my life literally never apologize for nothing in their life. They say, well, if I had did, that's what happens. Some of those people never took responsibility for the hurt or the damage that they caused in their life. And then the third thing would be was this right here. It's to listen.
To yourself, others?
No, the ability to know how to listen. No, listening. Like, say, for instance, if someone gives advice and they know more than you, they have the experience. Listen. Know how to listen.
Yeah, that's important.
That is very important. So it's those three things right there. Self-awareness, accountability, and know how to listen. Don't think that you're so goddamn intelligent where you know it all. Let people who are experienced in living life tell you. Let other people's failure be your guiding light. But this is what wisdom is. Very rarely talked about, but wisdom is not having to repeat something after it's already happened. I don't have to repeat the failure if I seen you go through it.
Yeah.
But today, I ain't gonna say just today. No, hell with that. This has been happening forever. I've seen it too often. Everybody always says this right here. Well, it won't be me.
And every damn time.
Every damn time. It's you. It's you.
It's you, my boy.
It is you.
Yeah.
So be wise, okay? And be a good listener. That's a skill in itself.
It is.
Learn how to do that. But those are the three things that I would definitely give people for sure.
I think that's great advice.
I
That's some pretty solid advice.
And so, but we got a few things we want to run by you, and because we're supposed to do this at the beginning of the show, but it's okay. We'll do it in the closing. But now what we didn't get to share that we have 4 episodes in at this point. And what this is, every 4 episodes will be a theme. And what we're going to try to do is focus on doing a recap where we get to get listeners together so we can have an open discussion, and we're going to post those as well.
Also, real quick, you left out, we are now on all streaming platforms. You can find Student of Life on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcast. We're still on the website Spreaker. You can still find us on Facebook. So anywhere that you can stream podcasts, you can find us now.
Yes, you can. And I'm glad you said that because I actually forgot about saying that.
Because you're old.
Excuse me.
What were you going to say? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, thanks for listening, everyone. This has been the Students of Life podcast. Live and learn.
Life is a lesson.